Okay, here's a replay review of Silver 2 Amumu player HR Cephei. Um, he asked me to basically, he didn't have any specific requests, he just said watch my game, so I'll be happy to do that. First thing I always do, take a look at the runes and masteries. So, pretty much right here, I think these runes and masteries are okay. Um, One thing with the flat magic resist is like I don't know. I'm a jungler. I don't think it's as important to get flat magic resist. Normally, you take flat magic resist to basically reduce the damage of early trades in lane, especially mid lane or ADC. I mean they're fine. I personally prefer scaling magic resist, so you get a lot more by the time that magic resist is important, which is when you're grouping. I also prefer maybe cooldown reduction, scaling cooldown reduction, something like that. But it's not terrible. I don't think magic resist is really the optimal thing for a jungler, just because I don't think it's useful most of the time. Mastery tree looks okay. I think these two are kind of useless on a tanky jungler, and on a Mumu who can sometimes play like damagey bruiser, they're decent. Um, but I usually prefer 6-6-18 or even just 12-0-18. But I mean, these are fine. I mean, they're fine. This is all standard, so overall this looks okay. Um, and then from the build order, I don't really see anything terribly off. So like Runic Echoes versus Cinder Hulk. If you're gonna go for Sunfire Cape, I personally prefer to get Cinder Hulk because it's just much more efficient on a on junglers who can use it. I think Cinder Hulk is like by far the most efficient, one of the most efficient items in the game. That being said, Runic Echoes is nice because the mana refunds, so it's kind of up to you. If you're gonna go Sunfire, I personally think Cinder Hulk is better, but it's preference. I see a lot of higher elo junglers also going Runic Echoes on Amumu, so it's okay. Oh, well, I pushed the wrong button. I pushed the wrong button. Okay. I missed your level 1 clear, whatever, that's fine. It took you a long time to turn on your tiers there. I don't know if that was just a mistake, but you might be able to clear camp with Smite, like maybe red buff, but you're super low because you turned on tiers late. Okay, here's something you're doing that is super dangerous. Rek'Sai is a really good level 1, level 2, level 3, early level jungler. She is super good. That's one of the best things. That's one of the reasons people still play her is because she's just so efficient in the early game. And you're doing your camp really low with no vision. And you're a Mumu. A Mumu in general is like, hey, come steal all my buffs because I'm a Mumu and I have a really crappy level 1. So you're too low because you didn't turn on tiers. You smited, like you didn't really have a choice but to smite early because you were so low. But the biggest sin here is you don't have a ward. And if I'm Rek'Sai, I would have already had this warded because I know Amumu is typically low, especially if somebody is kind of screwed up like he did. Um, so I don't know. I mean, you should have warded this. And if you don't have a ward, you have no business taking it because you are going to die from Rek'Sai if the Rek'Sai is good. But you're silver 2, so you died anyway. Okay, so I mean, the whole problem with almost all of that is you didn't turn on tiers, and I think that was a mistake. And oh well, it happens. I still die. Execute because like I'm trying to push the limits of efficiency, and it happens. But it kind of sucks. Okay. I think you're too far behind to force that gank. I think you invest a lot of time into it. I mean, you blew flash, so I guess it's worth it. but I really don't like being level 3 at 5 minutes. That's really dangerous. Even I mean, especially considering you died, and you're not even level 4 yet. Like you, so you've technically only cleared 3 camps in 5 minutes. Now I guess your fourth camp was Gromp. So yeah, I think you misplayed that a little bit just because of the flash wasn't needed, but it was worth a try. Something I want to point out is how low your mana is here. Um, if you're getting low on mana, you have no business using Q on the camps. It does a pretty good damage. Amumu's Q, but it's really expensive. I think it's like 70 mana or something expensive. So if your mana is low, like you don't want it to be low because that means you don't have any other options. So try and keep your mana decent, and one way to do that is to not Q the camp unless you have runic echoes already, or this is a good option on Amumu. Okay, I like that you're getting vision over their jungle when their buff is about to come up. I think that's an adaptation most people have taken on by now because of that stupid buff timer. Here's a pretty big problem. They've got your buff timers, right? Because that's a thing now. You don't have any. We have this vision, but that's kind of just covering the entrance. It's getting a little bit of this sliver here, but Rek'Sai can just go over a dragon. I guess there's a ward there. But my biggest point is how dark most of this river is, and the fact that she knows your buff is up, and the fact that she knows that you're only level 5, and the fact that she's Rek'Sai, and Rek'Sai is just really kind of a monster in the early game, and I don't think positioning for this gank is a good decision. It's always good to gank lanes, sure, but that doesn't make it a good decision to gank lanes. You know, it's nice if it works, but considering that most ganks don't actually end up in a kill, all you're doing is telling the entire map, hey look, I'm topside, and you can take my buff. So let me see if you actually step into vision. There's a bug in the client. Okay, you don't actually make it into vision, so at least Rek'Sai doesn't know that your blue buff is completely free. But it's, I don't know, right now you're getting carried hard by Cat. It's kind of nice. Okay, so you just cleared Krugs. It's 8 minutes and you're not level 6. That's a problem. But, so if you look at the map, he's pushed, but Nautilus is going to die. So that lane's dead, whatever. Nautilus can TP back to lane after he lives. So ignore top, that lane is kind of useless. But if you look, there's nothing on this whole half of the map for you. I mean, I guess you can come mid and like catch this wave, but I don't know. You kind of you dug yourself a hole. In terms of efficiency, you don't have a good option next, and that's something that junglers need to stop. You know, like they need to. You need to have a good option that's next, and because you spent so much time walking up here to not even gank, your only option was Krugs, and now you don't have a secondary option after Krugs other than spend a lot of time walking all the way to mid, or spend a lot of time walking all the way to wolves. So you need a path with like an intent in mind. Like, what's my first thing to do? What's my second thing to do? What's my third thing to do? And that's why you're level 5. I mean, yeah, you died and that sucks, but you should still be level 6 by 7.5 minutes, even with a death. So all that, what happened is you ended up kind of wasting 20 seconds to walk from Krugs to wolves without farming your anything in between. You're still not level 6. That kind of sucks. I hate the new EXP changes. Unfortunately, okay, you got level 6 from that kill, but you missed bandage toss. You might be able to flash bandage toss her. Okay, that worked. So your team is pinging really hard to take Dragon. I think it's okay only if Jinx comes. Because Jinx isn't coming, you guys can't take Dragon. You don't really have enough damage. Um, well, Jinx was able to zone off Rek'Sai. I don't like that call for Dragon. I don't like the split call of get tower, get Dragon, get tower, get Dragon. Ultimately, that's kind of the ADC's job when you get a successful gank. Whatever the ADC does is what you should help them do because they're your damage. Here's another problem. Because of all that fighting, you missed your blue buff, but now you're pathing up to your red buff. It looks like maybe you're like, oh, top lane is really pushed, I should go help that lane, but there's nothing to help. You don't even know where Renekton is. For all you know, he's in base, because he probably is. If I hit F1, okay, he's walking down to mid. So he's pinging Mia. I guess one thing you could be doing, because he's pinging Mia, is just be here defensively, so probably farm your Wraiths so that you're in a defensive position to react. But it looks like you're committing to your Krugs, which I just don't like, because that puts you on the side of the map that you don't need to be on, so you can't do any reactive things. You can just farm Krugs, and that's your only option. You changed pathing. Now you're going to farm nothing. You're going to slowly make up your mind and take red. You're not using your W on the camps, which I don't think is the right idea. W actually has a lot of damage. Okay, so I'm going to go back. Hopefully this works. Sometimes it crashes. Okay, you're farming Wraiths. You just took Wraiths. What's your next plan? What I would read from the whole map is she's about to die, so your next plan might be to take Wolves and then come cover mid once he pushes. Or maybe just come cover mid, depending on how fast he's pushing. But he's not pushing all that fast. He's only got one Voidling up. So I would go right over to Wolves, take Wolves, and then defend mid from being taken. Your decision to walk up here is a waste of time, a waste of pressure, a waste of everything, because there's nothing for you to do up here. All you get is a pink ward. Your Nautilus doesn't need you to gank. Okay, it works. So I guess that's kind of nice. I think that only worked more because Renekton was playing badly than because you had the right gank idea. Oh well, it worked, so I'm not really going to criticize it anymore. It does leave you with, again, the awkward situation of I'm on top side with literally no buffs on my top side of the map, so what do I do next? Your only good option is to waste 20 more seconds. I don't think you should have fought that because you used your ult. That would have been a perfect fight if you had ult, but you used it to kill Renekton. So I think you should have just positioned defensively around your tower. That's kind of the problem with Amumu, is like he's ult dependent really, really badly. He's almost useless without ult. And so if you don't have ult, your team's only good option is to defend. You still don't really have ult, so you don't really need to push this. Like, your team is in a good position to take tower without you, but this blue buff has literally been up since 7:30. Like, it's been up for 6 minutes, almost 7 minutes so far, and you haven't done anything about it. That's kind of a problem. You are too underleveled in this game. You're too underfarmed. Rek'Sai's not farming very efficiently either, but if I'm playing Nidalee in this game at 15 minutes, I'll have 68, 75 farm on a bad game. On a good game, I'll have upwards of 90 farm this late in the game. Okay, I need to be looking at what you're doing, which is camp in a bush. I guess you're trying to catch this dragon, so this is a good thing to get right before dragon. Unfortunately, Rek'Sai knows it too, and because you're under-farmed and under-leveled, you can't really do anything to stop her. And that's a problem in the jungle matchup. You have to stay up in levels and farm, not because of the team fight, because your job in the team fight is to lock everyone down and kill everyone. That's fine. These team fights are loud. Your job in a team fight is, you can do that without gold, but you can't secure neutral objectives in the 1v1 you versus Rek'Sai because you're so underleveled and underfarmed. So, I mean, but ultimately you guys win that fight and you get dragon for free, and that's kind of nice. You still haven't taken blue buff. It's been up for 10 minutes. 10 minutes. That blue buff has lived for 10 minutes. That's really, really too long. You finally got it. That's a lot. There's so much XP in those blue buff camps. Like the red buff, blue buff, there's a lot of XP that you're just letting sit and waste. Renekton's here, so being here for the counter gank is good. I don't think you're wasting time right now. You have defensive positioning to do this. You should get this 4-man. Oh, you don't have ult. Okay. That's why on Amumu I really like taking cooldown reduction blues. I mean, I don't know if you would have had ult there with 10% CDR, but it's a lot more significant than you might realize. Another problem with itemization that I can point out with Amumu, because your ult is everything. If you have ult, everyone hates you, everyone fears you. You're actually really fearsome with ult. Without ult, you're kind of worthless. And this item path here, you have no CDR built in this whole, like, none of your items. And the game ended at 32, but by your second item, you should have 20% CDR. So you should get jungle item and then Frozen Heart, or you should get. There's a lot of options now because Abyssal Scepter has CDR in it too, so you can go with like 10% CDR in runes, Abyssal Scepter as jungle item. Like you can get like Runic Echo's Abyssal, which is actually Abyssal is super strong on Amumu. Anyway, you can go Runic Echo's Abyssal. There's your 10%, or your 10% from Abyssal, 10% from your runes, or you can go Cinder Hulk into Frozen Heart. I mean, there's a lot of options for that 20%, but you should really get CDR as soon as possible on Amumu. So that's just a small criticism about the item build. I think CDR is one of the most important stats on him. You need to use your tears more often, especially when you have Runic Echoes. It procs your every time you do damage with it, it counts as a spell cast, I think. But even if not, it procs Runic Echoes, so it just you need to have W up in your camps. Runic Echoes will keep you high enough on mana. That engage was really risky. It worked only because your team is fairly ahead. Okay, I think you're doing the right thing here, by the way. A lot of people, they get low and they're like, oh, I have to go back to base because I might die, but who's going to kill you? So I think farming your jungle here is the good option. You can't really join the fight because you're a Mumu without ult, so again, like I said, you're worthless. Farming is a good option here. You don't really need to rejoin this fight. Your team needs to peel away from this fight, which they are. Now's a good time to back. You might be able to get Scuttle Crab. I don't know if Scuttle Crab is all that worth it here. It's not bad, but... Okay, so I think overall you're doing the right stuff here. I mean, it's not really split pushing. You're just providing map pressure, or you're just trying to be efficient with your time. One big criticism is you've got 1,800 gold, which is a lot, especially on a jungler. You don't really need you have no choice but to defend this dragon because I mean it's up, but I think you should have timed your backs around dragon a little bit better. It looks like their team just doesn't even want to bunch up, which I don't think they should, because your team's wombo combo is ridiculous. I think you're kind of trigger happy on your R because Katarina and Jinx weren't really there yet, and they're your team's whole damage. I mean, they're both huge damage output carries, and when they're not there, you guys don't really have any damage. So, um, before you make an engage, you need to look at the minimap and make sure your team's ready to follow up. Okay, so your team's going for some like siege. I think it's an okay option because you guys have this. So it's a 4v4. I think this siege is good as long as oh, okay. Anyway, the siege is the right idea and you're just there because in case they get engaged on. So you're doing fine here. Your team's job right now is to pressure the map because you have the inhibitor. And now that you guys are low, though, I would I would have taken this and just left, and that's kind of something that's hard to call in solo queue. But ooh, that was a nice little take. So your Amumu mid game is a lot better than your Amumu early game. And for a champion who's got naturally such a bad early game as Amumu, I think you really need to play smarter to compensate for that. But now I think you're playing fine, which is just group, pressure the map. When there's not really a time to group, you're just like taking camps and being farming. And so I think your mid game is a lot stronger than your early game. Dragon's up in 40, so that's kind of what your team needs to get. And then after Dragon, you need to make the decision. I'm a Mumu. I locked down their whole team, and that was nice. Okay, so their team was caught out of position, and you guys are able to capitalize on it. Now that you've won this fight, you need to take mid inhibitor and probably take Baron. That's kind of the objective chain that is the most effective objective chain now. Don't keep pushing because Caitlyn's up and she's got wave clear. Dragon's kind of useless. Your whole team stayed back. Dragon's your only good call now because of the other three members on your team, but I would have liked to have seen inhibitor into Baron. Okay, so as I'm saying, pressing an advantage as a jungler, that's a question that a lot of people have, especially in like the higher low elos, like high silver, low gold. People know how to get a lead, but they don't know how to sustain a lead and press an advantage. And you're doing the right stuff here, but I want to point out why it's the right stuff and how to analyze what is the right stuff. So in the mid game, quasi late game that you guys are in now, you just need to play to your team's win conditions. And and basically that's your draft. Look at your team's draft and decide, how do we win a game with this team? And with a team that's freaking Amumu, Nautilus, Katarina, that's a disgusting wombo combo that's like gonna do 2,000 damage AoE in like 4 seconds. And that's disgusting. Like the damage output of your team is huge. So your win condition is group and kill everyone, which is what you're about to do here, probably. Um, I don't like that ult because what you did was you got their 2 tanks in the ult, but your team is so far ahead that it doesn't matter, and that's kind of nice. I mean, that's the luxuries of being ahead. And so you did what you were supposed to, which is group, wombo combo. Once you guys are winning, take an objective. And so hopefully you're going to take Baron next as Katarina does stupid stuff here. It's not force 50-50 objectives. It's not force 5-on-5s because that's not what your team comp is good at. Your team comp is good at grouping quickly on their team and just dishing out a crap ton of AoE. And that's what you guys have been doing all game, and that's kind of this is like the dream team Silver Elo comp. Like, this is like the perfect draft for Silver because you've got 2 lockdown, you've got hella AoE to sustain it, you've got a hyper carry, and you've got somebody to defend the hyper carry. So this is like the dream team Silver Elo comp. Theirs is a little bit more like spazzy. They've got like a okay engage, an okay engage, a control mage, a kiter, and then Talia, who's like just bad. So you guys probably just won this in champ select, but your execution is what it should be, which is group, engage, win. So you're doing that well. That's not every team comp though. So if you have a team comp with like Tryndamere top, like if you have a team comp that's not based, like Tryndamere top, or Yasuo Bit is actually pretty good at womboing. Or let's say you're playing something like Nidalee jungle. Nidalee does not want to group. If you're playing an engage jungle, it really simplifies your team's win condition to just engage and win. So if you like this style of jungling, it's definitely one to stick with because it's easy to climb up through platinum with just engage and win. But that's not the only win condition, and so you should research what is my jungler's win condition, what is my team comp's win condition, decide that before you start a game, and then just execute that, which is what you've been doing for the past like 15 minutes. I'd say your mid game has been very solid, and in spite of a weak early game. So I'm just going to fast. It looks like you win this game off of... Yay, you win. Okay. So in this end-game victory screen, I want to summarize what went well, what went poorly, what should be changed, and just stuff. So I guess I'm going to go chronologically this time. Sometimes I go what went well, what went badly. I'm just going to go chronologically. So in order of kind of what I remember. First thing was your early game was kind of crap. I mean, not only did you die to red buff, which sucks, it happens, don't feel bad about it, but the real big mistake in the early game is that you were not doing enough. You were not farming enough. You were not pressuring the objectives enough. You were not doing enough. And it took you until like 840 or something to get level 6, and that's way too freaking late. Amumu's job, he's got a decent, probably like B- quality early game gank, but his level 6 gank is like A+, if not just solid S tier. He is a ridiculously fearsome ganker with ultimate. And so you need to get to that point as soon as possible. You can do a couple of ganks, level 1 through 5, because Q is really nice. It's a pretty good stun and a good gap closer. But you should be level 6 by like 6 minutes 50. Maybe 7:30 if you're kind of behind. But that's when you should get level 6. So you should really pay attention to what your future pathing is. Not what am I doing right now, but it's what am I going to be doing in 2 minutes. How am I going to get to that place on the map? And you also need to be flexible. So if you're like, say, farming your wraiths, and you notice that mid lane is about to get ganked, you can leave your wraiths and go mid. Even though your plan was to go wraiths to like red buff to Krugs, but you decided to go wraiths to mid because of a gank, and that's fine. That's kind of rule number 2 with early game, is your positioning needs to be deliberate so that you can actively react when you need to. And I didn't really see that either. I don't really see that on gold and silver junglers at all, and it's pretty rare to see even on plat junglers. Like that's a really deep skill, is to actively react to the map. Progressing through, as soon as you got level 6, you were doing everything, in my opinion, right, other than your frickin' blue buff here. lasted for 10 minutes before you took it. It spawned at 7:30 and it didn't get killed until 17:30. And that's a problem. That just goes to show inefficient jungling all around. But you executed your team's like victory condition extremely well from basically level 6 onward, and that's why you guys gained a lead at level 6. If you look at the gold spread of this map, you guys are pretty even until level 6, and then it just kind of just went up continuously. And that's exactly what your team should be doing. So you executed your win condition, and that's why you won. And by the way, silver and gold games, people lose not because they're bad. People lose because they didn't execute their win condition. So it is a good thing that you were able to do that here. If you can do that decisively on purpose, that's how you climb. I think in this game it might be a little bit of both. It might be a little bit of like just everyone's natural tendency is to group and team fight, and you have a really good draft for that. But what I would like to see is maybe if you have a game with like Tryndamere top, don't group and team fight.